Hello, today I'm going to show you how to make some very basic dreadlock or braid or hair jewelry. And if you aren't familiar with that, here's a sample of one that I made. I made 5 of these. I haven't listed them in my Etsy shop yet. This has a drop crystal at the bottom, and it's made with glass pearls, silver wire, and rose gold wire. What you do is you place your hair inside of this coil, and then it stays in your hair as a decoration. So that's example of one. Here's another one. On this one I put a little crystal heart on the top and the bottom, and it's just 4mm glass pearls and silver wire. This is made with blue crystals. And you can also wire weave to make these. Here's an example of one of mine. And it's just bronze wire and blue crystals and a very, very basic wire weave pattern. Nothing difficult, but it's quite pretty. And lastly, I have this one, also with a very basic wire weave pattern. And this one's silver wire with glass pearls and some crystals. But today I'm going to show you the very basic way to make these, and then you can make them as fancy and decorate them as much as you want. So I have some of this craft wire. It's copper wire that's been colored. It says permanently colored. I don't know. I know I mar it up all the time, so we just have to be careful when we're working with this. I have 22 gauge silver plated wire, 20 gauge silver plated wire, e-beads, 4mm glass pearls. I have 2 6mm glass pearls. I have round nose pliers, wire cutters, chain nose pliers, nylon pliers, a little file. Now, nothing's going to say that you need all of these. This is just what I brought with me to work with today. And then we need something round to wrap that jewelry around so that there'll be a place for your hair to go. I normally use paintbrush handle in different sizes, but anything will work. You could even use this. Now, that's going to make you a much larger one, but if that's what you need, you could use that. Okay, let's get started with this red wire. And we're going to cut it at 7 inches. Yes, you need a ruler. We're going to cut it at 7 inches. Now, truthfully, I've never measured before until I wanted to make this video. And I figured I had to come up with some kind of measurement, and this seemed to work okay. Certainly, it doesn't have to be exactly 7 inches. You can make it whatever size you want. And we're just going to cut that off. And we're going to file the ends on this wire. This is going to go in someone's hair. And we don't want to leave these sharp edges for someone's hair or skin to get scratched or hair to get pulled out. It only takes a few seconds. And this is nothing special. This file is not even a jewelry file. It's just a little cheap, I don't know, $1.50 file I got from my local hardware store. That's all it is. But it makes a tremendous difference in your finished product. And it only takes a few seconds to get that done. So let's bring in our round nose pliers, and we're just going to coil this around. Now, make your coil as big or as small as you want. There are no rules. All right, just like that. And now what I'm going to do on this other side is I'm going to coil it the opposite direction. So this one goes this way, this one's going to go this way. And that's just what I like. You can curl them both the same way, no reason why you can't. I also am not bothered by these coils being 2 different sizes. Now, if you want them exactly the same size, you can certainly do that. I just tend to just make it freeform. So here we have it. That's all we have. That's all we need. We're just going to get our round object, and we are just going to simply hold on to it and coil this around whatever round object we're using. And there we are. And there you are. A very, very simple little piece of hair jewelry. And it is minimal, but it's still going to be quite pretty in your hair. Okay, let's move on. We'll do one that's a little bit more involved. I'm going to take my 20 gauge wire. I'm going to smooth it out a bit with my nylon pliers. See if I can get it somewhat under control. Okay, and now again, we're going to go at 7 inches. And cut that. And once again, we are going to file our ends. Get that sharpness off of there. Now, if you cut your wire with the flat side facing on the piece that you're cutting and you're going to use, you will have less filing to do. But either way, it'll still work. You just file it a little bit. Okay, once again, we are just going to coil this. Only this time, I'm going to bring this first coil all the way together, like that. I'm gonna make basically a closed loop. Okay, and now we just go from here. Now you can certainly use your chain nose or your nylon to hold on to this wire and go ahead and push it around. There you go. I think I'll leave it at about that size. Now let's bring in our E-beads. And we're just going to put E-beads all over this wire. Onto this wire. Now I tend to just pick up whatever I pick up. I don't care if I have several the same color and line together. I'm not looking for a pattern. However, you can, if that's what you would like to do. If you want it to be a pattern, just make a series of how you want them on there and then repeat that over and over. If that's the way you would like to do it. Gosh, this is taking longer than I thought it would. You might want to fast forward. Do you see how that little coil is going to protect us from these coming completely off? All right, just keep going. Now, if you're wondering what that is, that's a little X to help guide me to stay in view of the camera. This is the 4th time I've tried to make this video, and as I do it, my hands get further and further away, and you really can't see a thing I'm doing. And unfortunately, I may even do that with that little X there. Let's hope not. Okay, that one got away. Come back here. Now we don't want to go too far up with the beads because they need to be fairly loose when we wrap them around our object. Now really you don't even have to put this many on. You could put a few on and just let them kind of travel around the jewelry. I think I'm going to stop here. And all we're going to do at this point is coil our other end. Once again, we are going to make that closed loop, completely closed, and then just go on to our coil. There we are, leaving room for these to move where they need to when we're wrapping them around. So, just as before, we are just going to wrap this around, creating that opening for our hair. There we are. And there we have a cute little beaded hair jewelry. Okay, and the last one we're going to make is a little bit fancier, but it's certainly not difficult. We're going to take our 20 gauge wire, and I'm sure you've guessed, we are going to cut this at 7 inches. Go ahead and file these ends. Okay, and I am sure you guessed, we are going to coil this. Okay, now let's get one of our 6mm pearls and place on this wire. Okay, so there we have it. Now let's set this aside and bring in our 22 gauge wire. And I'm going to cut mine at approximately 24 inches. Alright. Now let's work out where the approximate center is of this 22 gauge wire. And it doesn't have to be perfect, just somewhere in the middle. And now we're going to take our wire and make a nice sharp bend in the wire, creating a V. So we have a little V here. And what we're going to do is we're going to go back and pick up our 20 gauge wire, and we're going to place it into this little V. Okay. Now with the 22 gauge wires, we're going to cross them over each other and then pull it tight just to get it attached. See there? Now we have it attached. Now we're going to hold this part steady, the wire, the bead, and everything, and we're just going to wrap this 22 gauge wire around. And we're not looking, or I'm not looking for perfect, amazing wraps. I like this type of project to be kind of sloppy and loose, but you can certainly be careful with it and make it as perfect as you want. Now I'm going to take a 4mm pearl. And I'm sliding this onto the 20 gauge wire. All of these pearls go on the 20 gauge wire. Nothing goes on the 22 gauge wire. Okay, so this is what we have so far. Now what we want to do is take our wire that is furthest from the bottom of the bead, bring it around and wrap it. So we're just going to convince it to go around. And this loop here, you need to decide how tight you want it. I mean, you can wrap it even up against the bead if you want. I prefer mine to be loose. So let's just hold everything in place and wrap this wire. Now you wrap it 2, 3, 4, 5, 6, how many ever times you want. It doesn't matter. Now we're going to take this wire, come to the very bottom of where we wrapped the last, stop wrapping the last wire. And we're going to adjust this to be the way that we would like it to look, and then just wrap. Okay, let's get another pearl. Put it on our 20 gauge wire. And then the wire that is furthest away from the bottom of this bead, bring that around. Hold everything in place and wrap. Bring this wire around. Hold everything in place and wrap. Now you'll see that this loop is shorter and this loop is long and elongated. And that's the way I like my projects. I like them just to be very organic and not so perfect, but it would not be difficult to make this perfect, doing the exact same amount of wraps, wrapping them tight. Okay, the wire furthest from the bottom of the bead, bring it around and wrap. Then the other wire, checking to make sure that we like that shape, and wrap. So we're going to continue this down the entire length of the wire. And wrap. That's what we have so far. Okay. In place and wrap. And wrap. I'm not sure. You think we have enough room for another bead? Well, let's try it. And if it doesn't work out, we'll just remove it. It's okay. I'm going to wrap fairly tight on this one because I still have my pearl and curl to go here. However, it really doesn't matter how big the curl is. So I'm going to hold on to this and I'm going to wrap it tight. And then I'm going to cut it flush. And then I'm going to repeat that with this wire. But I'm going to start before the wrap so that I can keep this tight. So I don't run out of room. And cut that flush. Now let's go ahead and deal with these cut ends while we're at this point. We really need to make sure that these are squished down well so we have no rough jagged edges. And just see if you can feel anything. Once you can't feel anything, you should be good. Okay. Now let's get our 6mm pearl. Place that on. Now let me see which direction. Okay, so I need to go that direction. So what we're going to do is we're going to fold this wire over like that. And now we're simply going to coil it. Okay, now all that's left to do is to wrap this around our object. And just work with it. It will go. And there we are. I think I might stand that one up. There we are. Yes, I like that better. So there you are, a very pretty little piece of hair jewelry. Now, just to give you an example of how different things can become, if you do them the same way, but you use a different bead and a different color. This blue one that I showed you at the very beginning is exactly like this one. This one's wrapped looser and it has pearls. This one's wrapped tighter and it has crystals. Either one, very pretty. Now, I will caution you, if you do use crystals, they're fragile, or they can be fragile. When I first made this design, my very first one that I made, when I wrapped it around my round object, I broke 2 of these little 4mm crystals. I just, wrapped it around like I would normally. Now, you can see it is doable, but we just have to go very gently around, and then you get a really pretty piece of hair jewelry. Alright, so here are the ones that we made today. And I'll warn you that these are very addicting. Once you start making them, you really don't want to stop. I do hope you enjoyed this video, and I do hope that you will give this a try. Thank you so much for watching.